You're listening to the Overcast. Sunshine on a cloudy day. Part of the Oversoul Gaming channel. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the Overcast, your joke-making, fun-having pop culture podcast. I am your host, Justin, aka Oversoul.
And I am your co-host, Nick, aka the Vaping Fiend.
And like always, we bring you sunshine on a cloudy day.
Yes.
Although it has been quite sunny out lately. It's getting warm again. It was
It
cold
is.
and rainy. Now it's warm and sunny. I'm ready for the fall, though. Bring on the October, bring on the spooky season and all that fun stuff.
Oh yes, I am excited. In fact, I was browsing the library on Peacock today and decided to watch. I'm sneaking this in here because I'm not going to talk about it in my media corner because I don't want to really want to give it a full review because I don't have a full opinion on it yet. But it's fresh on my mind, and I watched Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey today.
Oh, okay. I'll just ask you this. Good or bad? Or somewhere in between?
So...
Or is it like so bad that it's good kind of thing?
It's so bad that it's good.
Okay.
Like, I'm excited for the second one, if that tells you anything.
Okay, yeah. I already know what happens in it because I watched the pitch meeting and the kill count for it.
Right.
Because I was not about to watch the movie itself, if I'm being completely honest. So
I saw that it was on Peacock, and I'm like, ooh, I've been wanting to see this. I've got nothing but time on my hands right now, so
it's the opposite for me. I'm because of time. I am now a bit more picky about. So like, I still basically watch everything. But the way that I do it now is, even though it's not a good substitute for a full hands-on experience, I know, I do sometimes use like recap videos on YouTube and full walkthroughs like the kill counts to basically quote unquote watch things that I don't otherwise have the time to actually watch. You know what I mean? Like, these are short, condensed ways of me basically getting the gist of what happened. Like, I know what happened from start to finish, at least the important parts. So yeah, like, I know enough to feel like I have watched it, even though I haven't. And that is, it's low priority content. Like, that movie is what I do those things with. You know, I still, like, if I actually want to see it, like, talk to me, I'll actually go out of my way to watch it.
Yeah.
But, you know, and like some other things I'm going to talk about in my media corner today.
Yeah.
You know, but thank God for things like Kill Count and CinemaSins and Pitch Meeting and all that, because now I know the stories of things I haven't seen.
Right.
So I can still talk about them. And it's not, look, I'm choosing to spoil myself on these things because I probably wasn't going to watch them anyways.
Fair enough.
So, there.
Fair enough.
But I was still curious. You know, I had to know anyways. So, there you go.
I know you've got
I will say this.
I'm
not going to talk about what I went to see until we get to the media corner, but I went to see a movie in theaters this weekend, and yesterday morning actually, and I saw trailers for a new Exorcist movie, Exorcist Believer or something like that.
Okay,
and it's like, two kids are possessed in this one, and it's one of those legacy sequels like they did with Halloween and Scream, or like Texas Chainsaw, where the survivor from the original movie comes back in this one as an old badass person.
I think I've seen a trailer for that, actually. Yeah. It looks really good.
Yeah, they also had a trailer for the new Five Nights at Freddy's, which I wasn't sold on completely until I saw this trailer. I like how they're doing it, where the animatronics are possessed by the ghosts of the kids who died in the, like, if you know the lore from the games, that is actually kind of cool that they're doing it that way.
Yeah. So
Um,
I will say that will be streaming on Peacock on October 27th.
oh, really? Okay.
Yes, that will be streaming
And
on
I
Peacock.
and Josh Hutcherson is the kid in it.
Yeah.
And I also saw the trailer for the Hunger Games prequel, focusing on President Snow as a young lad.
Oh shit, they're
Um,
doing a Hunger Games prequel? Nice.
yeah, but the thing is, President Snow was a bad guy, and this movie makes it. He's the protagonist in this prequel, and from what I could see, it wants you to like feel bad for him and shit. And I'm like, nah, fuck this guy. It's gonna be hard to care about him in this movie, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest,
fair
knowing
enough.
what happens in the future.
Right.
But whatever. It did look kind of cool though. I thought there was some. I thought there was another one too, but if there was, I can't remember what it was at this point. But those
Right.
were all pretty decent trailers leading
Okay.
up to what I saw. So you watched a show. Anything else going on?
Uh just working a lot. The last couple nights I ended up staying a little later cuz the the trailers got really busy, and I was waiting for my ride to get out so that I can go home, get my daughter, get her in bed.
Mm.
But this yesterday at work, I was overheating, and still I was staying hydrated. It was just being in that trailer was overbearing, and I I almost, I don't know, I it was a lot. I was
Gotta
moved.
stay hydrated.
Oh yeah, no, I've got an insulated water bottle, thanks to my wonderful girlfriend Sarah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay.
She got this for me because I didn't really have any money coming in, and she knew I needed stuff for work, and so she got on Amazon and had them sent to me.
Man, if only we did a video version of this with actual face cam, then you could show the thing.
I could, yeah, yeah.
But no, we have this static image with talking heads.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
you
At some
know
at
what?
some
You
point.
know how Deadpool's like maximum effort. I'm like
Yeah.
minimum effort.
Yes.
You know you love it. The cheesy low quality content is why half of the people are on my YouTube in the first place.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, well, hopefully you don't have to deal with too many more heat strokes at your job of packing boxes.
I hope not.
Yeah, it's slow down if you have to. I know it's a fast-paced job, but woof.
It is. It
Uh,
really is.
but I mean, are you liking the job still though
Yeah, I
overall?
mean, yeah, it's decent. I'm struggling.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I haven't had a lot going on after I saw that movie. I basically slept most of yesterday away. Um, did some video editing, and then today I did a bunch of recording of stuff, finishing up. Apparently, my sister started watching my Danganronpa playthrough,
Oh yeah.
and it's like 17 episodes in right now, and they're all like in the realm of an hour long. And she just binged through all the available episodes in a matter of like 2 days,
Oh shit.
and and she was like, "So when are you gonna put more out?" So I'm working on that too. I
Okay.
think she got impatient though because she went and watched the anime based on the game, which is the same story but condensed into 12 half-hour episodes.
Yeah.
Um, but I think she's gonna keep watching because when I finish the first game, I do plan on continuing the series from there. So, and this is one of the things I'm gonna talk about. It's funny. I'm actually gonna talk about Danganronpa in our topic today because it is one of those things that's known as a multimedia franchise. The
Yeah.
game, the franchise is made up of several games and an anime. There's two animes, but one of those animes is a required viewing if you want to finish the story.
Right.
And therefore, it falls under a multimedia franchise. Ladies and blokes and non-binary folks, today's topic is going to be multimedia franchises. Yes, that is
Yes.
the topic. And to be clear, these are franchises that have canonical entries spread across different forms of media. So take the MCU, for example, which has movies and TV shows that you have to watch if you want the full picture.
Yes.
That it makes it a multimedia franchise. Star Wars counts as well. So we'll dig more deeper into that when we get to the actual topic section, because there are some things. Assassin's Creed is a big one because that has games, movies, books, comics, like Jesus Christ. So yeah, yeah. So anyways, that'll be that when we get there. So before we hop on over to our media corner, because honestly, I've got nothing good. Work continues to be the same for me.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else
Not that I
for?
can think of.
All right, all right.
No.
Well then, let the curtain rise and onward to the news, reviews, and recommendations.
Yes.
This thing better not be a musical.
No, but it is one of those plays where the actors come out into the audience and bother people.
Ooh, that's the only kind of play we have in hell.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Media Corner, the place for news, reviews, and recommendations. That's right, it's a hybrid. And I'd like to kick us off this time because, as I said, I went to the movie theaters and I saw X, or saw 10, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes, I did indeed. Although what it really is Saw 1.5, if we're being honest here.
Okay.
So yeah, this movie takes place between Saw 1 and 2. John has already, started his work as Jigsaw, but he's going to, cancer support groups and stuff, and he hears about this experimental technology from one of the people there, this treatment, and he contacts the lady behind it, this British lady named Cecilia, and she says that they're kind of working off the grid right now and they're in Mexico. So he travels to Mexico and he gets the surgery, and it turns out to be a scam. And so with the help of Amanda and an off-screen Hoffman, he gets help, or he gets all the people involved in the scam and puts them in their traps. So the first half of the movie is all about John going through his cancer shit and setting up all this. And then the second half of the movie is where all the traps take place. It's a bit of a different pacing from your typical Saw movies.
Okay.
And fun fact, this one has actually gotten better critic reviews than any other movie in the franchise.
Okay.
And I still say the first one is the best one, but I think what they did here is they kind of listened to people who complained that these movies are nothing but like quote unquote torture porn or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, you want a story? Here, have some story." And so they threw some story in there and some character development. There are moments in this movie where Amanda shows some humanity and sympathy for the other for the other characters, and even questions whether what they're doing is right. And people are like, "Yeah, that's what was missing from the previous Saw movies." If I'm being honest, like we needed more shit like that,
Right.
So yeah, it was kind of cool, and I will say this movie has one of the better twists in the series. I was wondering how they were going to pull off a twist in this one, considering it's a prequel sort of, and
Okay.
and they managed to pull off a good twist that is like self-contained within the narrative of this movie itself,
Okay.
And
Now-
it was a really good twist that I did not see coming. Like, I was pretty surprised by it, to be honest.
Now, would you consider this movie like an apology letter for the I wouldn't necessarily the fans, but all like the complaints that they've gotten.
In a sense, it does feel like what we call that is, or what they call that in the industry is reactionary content. When a movie or a video game or a show is produced or directed or developed or designed in a way specifically where it feels like some of the things they're doing are specifically in direct reaction to like complaints or things people said on the internet. So
Okay.
it does have some of that vibe in it, but what it actually feels like is a marriage of new and old. The first half of the movie feels like the newer Saw movies with all of the melodrama and the focus on characters and story. And the second half of the movie, when the traps start to kick in, that feels more like the older Saw movies. They go back to like the flashy editing and the jump cuts and the spinning cameras and the green tint over everything, and the metal music playing in the background. That so it was like a combination of new Saw and old Saw together, and
Okay.
it worked, especially with the industrial. Like crude engineering feel of the traps in the movie itself, which all take place in the same room, by the way, in this one.
Okay. Okay.
For the most part, yeah. I will say I was wrong about that eyeball trap being the opening trap, but it is pretty early in the movie. It does take place in the first half during all the melodrama stuff, so you do
Okay.
get a little bit of a break from that for that. But I won't spoil anything about it because the resolution to that scene is actually pretty fucking funny. So,
Okay.
um, but the first proper trap in the movie doesn't take place until about 45 minutes in, and this is a 2-hour movie. So
Okay.
you just have to know that going in. This is paced like a Tarantino movie. It's a lot of talking and character stuff in the beginning, and then a lot of brutality and blood in the second half.
Fair enough.
So that's kind of what you gotta know going into it. And but I will say, the traps in this movie, some of them were definitely painful to watch, as in I squirmed, as in like, ooh, that has to hurt, ooh. But as far as gore, like outright gore, kind of tame compared to some of the older movies.
Really?
Maybe it's because the older movies were just that good at practical effects. They made it look more real. This one didn't have as much of that feeling to it. This one focused more on like, oh man, that's got a smart in terms of what the characters had to do. I will say
Right.
this too, and I'm not sure if this is a spoiler or not. I wouldn't really, because to me a spoiler is whether or not people survive their traps.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
so what I will say is maybe mild spoiler territory. This is the first Saw movie where characters actually kind of like
Survive their traps?
no, not necessarily that. This is the only one where most of the characters in a trap actually put forth a decent effort into doing what they're supposed to do.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but I will say, but that for me at least added to the tension of the movie, because there were moments where it was like down to like the skin of their teeth on the timer, like, I was like on the edge of my seat with those goddamn timers counting down for each trap, like,
Right.
because it really did get that close several times. And
Shit.
oh man, and I can't tell you one way or the other if it was like a good or bad skin of their teeth, you know what I mean? I can't tell you if they just made it or just missed it. You'll have to see for yourself. But I will tell you,
Right.
you're gonna be biting your nails on those ones. So all the build up in the beginning is worth it, and also there's a lot of foreshadowing in the first half of the movie that pays off in the second half as
Yeah.
well. So definitely pay attention in this one.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
So, I mean, and also, they didn't digitally de-age John and Amanda. They just left the actors as they are. So,
Okay.
which I thought was kind of a cool choice. Because for John, it works anyways, because he's old and dying of cancer in the first place. But, like, for Amanda, you can kind of tell with her a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, because this is supposed to be between 1 and 2, and, like, in 2, she looked like she was still in, like, her early 20s. And in this one, she looks like she's in her 40s. So,
Fair enough.
but with John, you can barely tell a difference. So.
Fair enough.
The legendary Tobin Bell and Shawnee Smith.
Nice.
Yeah, I won't. I won't. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything about whether or not any other characters are in this, but I will say that there is a reference to Hoffman in the movie. There is like a reference to him.
Okay.
So, and there is a credit scene in this movie, but it's not it's not a post-credit scene like everyone keeps saying where you have to wait till the very, very end. It's a mid-credit scene. It plays after the first set of credits.
Okay.
So, and it's worth staying for if you're a fan of the franchise, trust me. It's a bit of fan service. So,
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, plays after the original credits. Definitely a different style for these movies. The opening and all that stuff. Even the way they did the title card in this one, it kind of felt like a Tarantino movie, I'm not going to lie.
Really?
In a lot of ways, yeah. So, I liked it, though. I'd give it like I give it an 8. I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
So, anyways, that's my first thing.
Okay. My first thing is I watched, so I did a rewatch recently of The Meg. Absolutely loved it the first time I watched it, loved it the second time I watched it, loved it now. And just yesterday, Sarah and I watched Meg 2 The Trench. And this was, oh my god, bro, like the act it felt more action involved rather than horror.
I was gonna ask how you got her to watch what is technically considered a horror movie. They did a kill count for the first one, so it's not, I wouldn't say it's horror, but it's a creature feature, so it's horror adjacent.
She said that creature features are something that she doesn't typically have an issue with.
Okay, so stuff like Anaconda, Lake Placid, shit like that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, tell me about Jason Statham versus Giant Lizard Monster Part 2.
Bro, okay, so without spoiling anything, they did a lot with this one. This one was all over the place. I don't know how to say anything about it without saying and without talking about spoilers. If that makes sense. There's not much I can say.
You'll get there one day. It's a learned science. It takes practice.
But it was really good. Very well done. I will say, I don't want to spoil anything. I don't know how to. I don't know. It was good. It was good.
Well, like, what's the synopsis here? Like, what's the setup for this one? Like the basic setup. Obviously, it's a sequel, so it takes place how long after the original, and then
Meg 2 The Trench. A research team encounters multiple threats while exploring the depths of the ocean, including a malevolent mining operation.
Okay. And Jason Statham always kicking ass in this movie, huh?
Bro, he's like the next Chuck Norris.
I can agree with that. Yeah, have you seen Crank and Crank 2?
Yes, I have. Oh my god, those are hilarious.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, the Meg 2. What would you give it rating wise?
I would have to say 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10? No, 8.5. 8.5.
Okay.
I never.
Right.
I don't know what. I don't know why, but I can't ever give like a solid rating on something. It's always got to be a 0.5 added onto it. I don't know.
It depends. For me, it's when I'm flip floppy between two numbers, I'll settle in the middle. But I usually try to give it a round number if I can.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Another thing I watched recently, so there's a show on Netflix called Disenchantment. It is the third show by Matt Groening, creator of The Simpsons and Futurama.
Hmm.
It feels very much like a medieval version of Futurama, maybe a little more edgy since it's on Netflix. They can get away with a little bit more.
Yes.
It follows the adventures of Princess Tia Beanie and her friends Elfo and the elf and Lucy the demon, played by Eric Andre, who
Yes.
basically are on a quest to destroy her evil mother.
Okay.
And take back the kingdom of Dreamland. So there are several other characters. Her dad, King Zoggin, is played by John DiMaggio, who plays Bender on Futurama.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, he's a lot of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of familiar voices. Like if you're familiar with like Simpsons and Futurama, if you've watched them, you'll hear a lot of the same voices in this show.
Oh yeah,
you
most
know,
definitely.
the same
I did
names.
did watch a couple episodes of the first season of Disenchanted,
Okay.
and it
Um,
was actually I liked it. Was funny. It was funny.
Well, now's the time to get back into it because the fifth and final season hit Netflix recently, and that's what I watched. The show
Okay.
is now over. They finished the story with the fifth season, and man, was it a banger! I really enjoyed the conclusion. And since it is like in a medieval fantasy setting, yes, there was a huge epic battle. um,
Okay.
and I hope they paid their animators well because it was nuts. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed it. They concluded the story very nicely, basically the best way they possibly could. There were a few things I kind of wish didn't happen, but I'm okay with it in hindsight.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, overall, a really good story with a mostly happy ending for most of the characters. Like I was
Yeah.
surprised with how good it ended. It's genuinely funny. Like, yeah, it like I said, it's a little more edgy than Simpsons and Futurama because it's on Netflix, but it's got a similar style of humor, and they got some great one-liners. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the fifth and final season, and I highly recommend it. Now that the show is over, go
Uh-huh.
on Netflix and binge the whole thing, all 5 seasons in a weekend. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody watch the show. Do it now. But yeah. No, it's good. I liked it. I'm happy. I would give the whole show entirely overall probably like a solid 9 out of 10. I would
Okay.
give I would give season 5 itself probably like 8.5, yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, a little bit up there. One of these days, I promise one of these days I'm going to talk about something I hated and I give it a bad review. Oh, I did. It was Gollum several episodes ago. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. When are you going to talk about something you didn't like for a
Who?
change?
Who? Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, bro. I don't know.
Come on, you got to spice it up every once in a while.
I
All right,
know.
anyways, though, what's your second thing?
Bro, I don't know why I've been sleeping on this show, but this shit's fucking hilarious. Letterkenny on Hulu, bro. Like this shit. Like I was fucking dying. They had a whole episode where they tried to make a version of Facebook, but all about
Yeah.
farts. Like
Yep.
that humor's right up my fucking alley, and that shit's bro. Like I was rolling. I was rolling.
Yeah, we know there's there's overlap in the types of humor that you and I like, but then there's differences as well, and the best way that I can explain it is new versus old South Park.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
basically. So, okay. Um so Letterkenny, my mom and brother and one of my friends are all fans of that show. Now, from what I've seen of it, it basically seems like in a similar vein to the dry humor of Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Almost kind of like a tongue-in-cheek. Uh, but in Canada.
Yeah, it's always sunny in Canada.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
In Canadelphia.
Yes.
So...
Bro, this
So,
show is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how are you liking it so far? What do you think of the emo characters and all that?
Bro,
the surfer dudes.
The surfer dudes though, those are the hockey players. You're talking about
Oh
like
yeah, the hockey players. Yeah, whatever. All sports are the same to me.
Okay. So the goth emos, those are the meth heads.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The meth heads.
Dancing
Like,
in the
bro,
alleyway.
like, oh my god, like every minute of every fucking day they're dancing to like rave music. Like, what the fuck? You guys got something better to do with your time?
Obviously not.
Oh my god, that shit was fucking hilarious.
How far in the show are you?
Well, considering I had put it on last night to fall asleep to, I ended up in season 3. But I think I fell asleep during episode 3 or 4, episode 4 of season 2.
You got a favorite episode so far?
So far, I'd have to say the fart book one had me rolling the most.
You got a favorite character?
Wayne. Yeah, Wayne. I'd have
Okay.
to say Wayne. Oh,
That the funniest character for you?
okay. So the funniest character for me, Squirrely Dan.
Okay.
Squirrely Dan is my favorite character. Besides Wayne.
Okay,
Squirrely
okay.
Dan makes me giggle the most.
Of course. He's got a funny name too.
He does.
All right, so that's Letterkenny. We'll check back in with you on that once you've watched more of the show to see how you feel about it in later seasons.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think you've seen enough of it to give it a full
No, I
review.
do not
Yeah.
have. I've not seen enough of it to give it a full review, but it is on my. It is definitely on my like regularly watch list.
Okay, well, the last thing I have is a piece of news. It appears that the writers' strike is finally over. Now, to be clear, this is just the writers' strike. I think the actors' strike is still going on.
Yes.
So we may have to wait a while for things to get back in full motion, but this may allow for some things to still get going.
Yeah.
You know? But the strike officially ended on Wednesday, September 27th, after 148 days, and the union's
Sweet.
membership will begin their vote on Monday, October 2nd, so that's tomorrow at the time of recording this.
That's
For many, this,
that's
what's
some that's some good news for Hollywood.
oh yeah, yep. Let's see. There is an agreement, so they're gonna vote on the agreement.
Okay. Do you have the
one of-
information on the agreement?
Well, the exact language of the contract is yet to be released, but there's
Okay.
a summary. Increases to minimum wage and compensation, increased pension and health fund rates, improvements to terms for length of employment and size of writing teams,
Okay.
and better residuals included foreign streaming residuals.
Foreign streaming residuals. What does that mean?
It means when the shows that they wrote on get streamed in foreign countries, they get paid.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
They also laid out a section specifically about AI, with an agreement that doesn't prevent writers or productions from making use of generative AI, but prohibits using software to reduce or eliminate writers and their pay. A writer can choose to use AI when performing writing services if the company consents and provided that the writer follows applicable company policies, but the company can't require the writer to use AI software when performing writing services.
What
So,
union? What union is it that that the writers are under?
um, I can't remember the name of it. It's the Writers Guild of America, the WGA, I think,
Okay, okay,
is just what it's called. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So, but yeah, to be specific though, the actors for the SAG-AFTRA strike are still on strike. That is separate from the WGA strike. So the writer's strike ended, the actor strike is still ongoing. That is where we are now, and they are at the time of recording this, so I have no updates for you now in real time. So
Okay.
by the time the audience is hearing this, there will be updates on it, and this will be mostly old news, but
Yes.
at the time of recording this, the strike ended and they're voting tomorrow
Okay.
on the new terms.
Okay.
So that is your writer's strike update. Been a while since we had one of those, and now we have one.
Yeah.
All right.
I was browsing through Disney Plus today, and I saw that this Wednesday the new Haunted Mansion movie that was in theaters over the summer, on October 4th, the new Haunted Mansion film will be streaming on Disney Plus. Uh, and because it's it hasn't dropped yet, I actually convinced Sarah to watch the the original Haunted Mansion movie that came out like 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't consider that horror any more than I would Casper.
No,
So
no, the Haunted Mansion was it's I watched the trailer.
it's a kids movie.
It is. It is. I watched the trailer for the new one, and I'm actually kind of excited to see the twist that they take on it. So I'll read the synopsis.
It's got
Or
Danny DeVito in it.
it does have Danny DeVito in it. Let's see. Haunted Haunted Mansion 2023. A single mom named Gabby hires a tour guide, a psychic, a priest, and a historian to help exorcise her newly bought mansion after discovering it is inhabited by ghosts. Let's see. We've got
By goats? Bah.
ghosts. Ghosts.
Ah.
Gabby is
Well,
played
both would be a problem.
right. Gabby is played by Rosario Dawson. The priest is
Oh, okay.
the priest Father Kent is played by Owen Wilson. Harriet, I think
Wow.
Harriet, I think she's the historian. Harriet is played by Tiffany Haddish. Bruce Davis, the scientist, is played by Danny DeVito, and I was actually really excited for this one. Madame Leota, the crystal ball in the movie, also canonical to the ride. This role is played by none other than Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, okay.
Jared Leto's in this too. I'm not familiar with the character. So it might be something new and introduced in this one.
Oh
The hat
boy,
box.
they
I
had
don't
a
know.
good cast up until they threw his dumbass in there. Why'd they have to do that?
Bro, I don't even know. But let's see. I'm looking down the list a little bit further to see. Oh, Joe Coy is in this
Okay.
as a daytime bartender. That's exciting. Let's see. Is there any other names in here that ring a bell? I'm not seeing any more familiar names. Joe Coy was the only other one I saw, and I didn't even know he was in it. Oh, Winona Ryder. She's uncredited, but she plays the role of Pat.
Yes, the Will's mom in Stranger Things.
Yes.
I mean, I know she's been in a lot more than that.
She was also in Mr. Deeds with Adam Sandler.
Joyce, that's her name in Stranger Things, I think.
Yeah. I did watch a little bit of the Stranger Things show.
a little bit of the Stranger Things. You said, "Hey, what are you kids watching? Is that they're the Strange Things show?"
I tried watching it. I ended up falling asleep every time I tried.
I'm beginning to think that's more of a you problem than a problem with the things you watch, because you fall asleep to everything.
I do.
That's definitely not a problem with that show, trust me. Oh, man. But do you have any love for Spielbergian sci-fi like E.T.?
Oh, dude, I love E.T. E.T. was a staple when I was a kid.
It's supposed to be very reminiscent of that era of things, like
before
80s sci-fi horror.
Sarah actually does like Stranger Things, so at some point I'm sure her and I will sit down and binge through it.
Ah, good. Someone to keep you awake.
Yes.
She's gonna listen to this, I know.
I know she will. Yeah.
You have my permission to slap him. Like, wake up! Oh, man. Alright. I actually know, from personal experience, that a nice cold ice cube down the back works wonders as well.
Yeah. You've done that to me
Right?
You've done that to me on a number of occasions, actually.
Oh, shit. Yeah, those were back in the days of the party times.
Yes.
Too old for that shit now.
Yeah, we are.
Anyways.
Get off my lawn!
Speaking of getting old, time is of the essence, so I'm supposing before we turn into our own Haunted Mansion ghosts, we get a move on and jump into the topic of this episode.
Yes.
Is my favorite. That's why I crave it. Being a rich, wicked old witch. What should I say?
Money is the love of my life. The only true love of my life.
Alright, everyone, welcome to this episode's topic, which is all about our favorite multimedia franchises. And again, a reminder, these are franchises with canonical entries spread across different forms of media. I think I'll kick us off with a very strong example because it has shit all over the place. Assassin's Creed. The Assassin's Creed franchise is made up mostly of video games, but even there, those games are spread across different platforms and types. You have AAA games, indie games, side games, numbered games, but then there are movies. There's live action and animated movies that are part of that are canonical. The Assassin's Creed 2 has a prequel movie that comes bundled with the game that's about his father.
Okay.
And the Michael Fassbender live-action Assassin's Creed movie is canonical to the franchise. It serves as a bridge between when they've stopped at like Assassin's Creed Syndicate and then kind of like soft rebooted the franchise with Origins with the RPG style. So that movie serves as a bridge between those 2 points in the franchise, basically.
Okay. I would say, as far as Assassin's Creed goes, like, I've seen the movie. The movie, I
It wasn't great.
because it wasn't great.
As a fan of the series, I'll be honest, it wasn't great.
I'm not necessarily okay. I enjoy the series, but the only game that I really take out of it, because I'm not really a huge fan of the games. The only game I am a huge fan of at this point, I would have to say, would be Valhalla.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you've mentioned that before because of the Norse mythology
Yeah,
thing. Um,
yeah,
and that, I think part of it too, like if you like the gameplay style of Valhalla, then I think you would like the gameplay style of the two that came before it as well, Origins and Odyssey, um, which are also Egyptian and Greek mythology, respectively.
okay,
So if you like those types of mythologies as well, then you'd enjoy those. But also,
I
that
do.
that particular trilogy is an open world RPG style gameplay, whereas the older Assassin's Creed games, the previous ones, were more of a jumping from rooftops and like hiding in hay bales and jumping out and giving someone a surprise snogging, kind of gameplay
Right.
style. It was stealth based, but also a lot of parkour. Like parkour and stealth were the two main things in the Assassin's Creed franchise, and they
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
most definitely.
threw all of that out the window with the newer games because it's a bunch of empty desert land. So there's not a lot to parkour off of. So,
Right.
but people enjoyed them. But you believe it or not, there are books. There are books that are canonical to the overall Assassin's Creed franchise. They take place um, in the connected universe. The books, however, focus specifically on stories of assassins that don't get covered in the games. Like they just released a new one. Can't remember what it's called, but this one focuses on on an assassin in the Vietnam War.
Okay.
Yeah, so the books do that, and now they're gonna start spreading the shit into mobile games and stuff too. So,
Okay.
and there is that VR game, Assassin's Creed Nexus, coming up, but that one is just like. It looks like we're reliving key memories from popular assassins throughout the franchise in VR, but the most recent trailer I saw for it seemed to indicate that you're being being contacted by the modern day assassins and they need your help to find something, so they're having you go through these things. So it too probably somehow, God forbid, ties into the overall story of the
Right.
franchise. So yeah, Assassin's Creed is probably one of the longest running and biggest like examples of multimedia franchises that I can think of off the top of my head. I can't think of a single other thing that is spread across games, movies, and books that has been going on as long as that series has.
Fair enough.
So that's probably like the biggest and most prominent example of like if you are a hardcore dedicated fan, then you probably have a shelf dedicated to just Assassin's Creed shit. Like here's a part for the
Yeah.
games, here's a part for the books.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say another really good example would be Harry Potter.
Yes. So the movies are an adaptation of the books, but
Yes.
there are other pieces of media besides the movies and books that are canonical to the story.
Yes.
Would you like to...
Hogwarts Legacy, for example. Hogwarts Legacy is set in 1890 and 1891. This is roughly 100 years before the events of Harry Potter. I'm just going to read it as it says. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm.
You've got like, let's see here. You got names in this game like, let's see, let me scroll down the list here. That's the first one I saw. You've got, okay, so you got all of the house ghosts in it. Nearly Headless Nick is still Nearly Headless Nick in the game. Peeves is in it. We've got okay, so the first name that pops up here, it's you'll if you're a fan of the series, you can't forget the Weasleys. We've got Professor Matilda Weasley. She is one of the professors in the game. We've got, let's see. Oh shit! I scrolled past. Professor Phineas Nigellus Black. He is the headmaster and an ancestor of Sirius Black.
Okay.
I'm looking through. Gareth Weasley, he's in Gryffindor. I don't see any other familiar names.
But
But those are
the basic premise here is that the game takes place. It's a canonical prequel to the Harry Potter franchise. So to speak.
Yes, because there
Okay.
is stuff in the game that is canonical in the books, like Ollivander's wand shop. You've got all of the other different bookshops in the 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 pubs in Hogsmeade. And,
Okay.
and in the PlayStation edition, there is a shop that you can open on you can open up in Hogsmeade, where you can go when your inventory is full, you can go to your shop and sell the goods. But before you can open the shop, you have to go through what would be considered the PlayStation exclusive portion of the game, where you have to fight off like mannequins and shit.
Okay.
And this is why I want to see Markiplier play this game, the PlayStation edition, more specifically. I want to see Markiplier play this game. I really
Man.
do.
I don't know if he ever will, but I am excited for the Iron Lung movie that he's making, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, based off an indie horror game called Iron Lung, he's making that movie.
Okay.
Yes. So, okay. Also for Harry Potter, isn't there a book that takes place after the events of the movies that didn't
Yes.
get its own movie?
Yes, actually, I have it sitting right here. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child Parts 1 and 2 play script, based on an original story by J.K. Rowling, John Tiffany, and Jack Thorne, a play by Jack Thorne.
Okay.
And I'm looking inside the book. It actually it's laid out like a play script would. It tells you who's saying what at what time, and it gives you their lines and shit. So yeah, it's basically it's a script in the form of a book.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, this was also an actual play in London.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So that is I'm glad that you brought that up, because that will help me segue into my next thing, because one of these things I've been waiting to talk about this one for a while. Actually, this is a video game series at its core, but has so many outside things that are canonical to it, including, of all things, a frickin' stage play. So,
Okay.
So there are these games called Nier and Nier Automata, and they are like these over the top action type games, Devil May Cry style combat, but with a Square Enix JRPG aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
I would actually say the second one is more Devil May Cry-ish. The first one is more like Zelda, but either way,
Okay.
they're both great. But the big gimmick about these games is that they have several different endings, and you need all of these endings in order to get the full story. So it's hard to get people to get into these games because they hear that and they think, oh shit, so I gotta play this long ass RPG like 4 different times. No, that's not how it works. How it works is you play the game once and it'll probably be like a normal like maybe 10 to 20 hour playthrough, but you beat the game, quote unquote beat it, credits roll, but then when you start over and play again, things are different now. In the case of the first game, it starts with like an extra like story, and in the case of Nier Automata, the second game specifically, it's more noticeable because the first time you play that game, you play as a character named 2B. And then when you start the second playthrough, you play as her sidekick, 9S, and you get a different perspective. You get to see different things, different parts of the story, and you learn new information. So once you've beaten the game as both of them, once you keep going, that's only the halfway point of the whole game. Then it starts what's known as Playthrough C, and it unlocks the second half of the game, and everything from there is brand new content continuing the story. And that's what leads you to the true ending. So it's not that you're replaying the same game over and over again to get different endings. You're not. Each ending is basically a chapter in the story. That tells the whole thing. So when the credits roll, you're not actually done. You're just done with that chapter, but you still have plenty of game left to go. You know what I mean? It's new. It's new every time you play it because it continues the story from where you left off with the last one. So
yeah.
So
there
because
was
of that, there is a huge gap between the events of the first game and the second one, and what leads up to these is explained in a freaking stage play of all things. But that's not all. There are books, also novels that take place in this game's universe that kind of like tell backstories of other characters, like a robot that you meet in a junk heap in the first game that grows into a powerful monster by the time the second game comes around thousands of years later. And there's a book all about his journey. It's just weird shit like that. And also on top of that, to confuse things even further, in America, the original game was just released as Nier, and you play as the old guy, and the daughter he's trying to save, or the girl he's trying to save is his daughter. But in Japan, they had 2 versions. They had Nier Replicant and Nier Gestalt. And Gestalt was the one where it's the old guy and his daughter. But Replicant, instead of an old guy and his daughter, it was a younger guy and his sister that he was trying to save. And that is the version that got remastered and re-released on modern consoles, or at least on the PS4 recently. So, like a few years back, it got like a PS4 remaster. So, and it's called Nier Replicant. So it is possible to play both Nier Replicant and Nier Automata are both on PS4, and they can both be played on PS5. And they are solid games that I strongly recommend. You do not really need any of the in-between stuff to really fully understand them, but you do have to be willing to invest the time to make them worth it. But I wanted to mention it because it's a very good story about, like, you know, robots having the feelings of humans and stuff like, you know, it toys with that kind of thing again.
Yeah.
I really enjoy those, and that's one of my favorite multimedia franchises, but I didn't go out of my way to get all the other pieces of the story. I just listened to someone else explain it on YouTube. So that's what I did with that. But yeah, that's one of them, though, where the pieces of there's a character named A2 in the second game, and her backstory is told in a damn stage play that's exclusive to Japan. So I had to get the
Okay.
story of that off of YouTube.
There was okay, so there's another. I don't know if this would be considered multimedia, like multimedia, but because there was a like a I think there was a few movies that they have made about the show One Piece. But I wanted to actually talk about this for a brief second, because last I heard, I'd have to check her Twitter. But Jamie Lee Curtis should be having a role in season 2 of the live action One Piece on Netflix.
Oh, okay. The live action
Yeah.
adaptation.
Yeah, the live action adaptation of One Piece. Cast confirmed.
Right. If something has movies that are part of it that are part of the story, then I count it. Anime actually does this a lot. There's two ways that they do it. Anime has this way of bringing in movies that are part of the story technically, but are not necessary to watch in order to get the full story. If you're just watching the anime, you can safely skip them, and it'll make no difference because they rarely ever mention the events of the movie in the anime itself.
Right, yeah.
Pokemon did that a lot. There were some things that were important in the movies that carried over the show, particularly some Togepi stuff.
Yeah.
In some of them, but like for the most part they didn't like really ever call back to it. Like, season 17 or whatever, Pokemon didn't start and they didn't be like, man, that was a crazy adventure with Mewtwo, wasn't it? They just moved on.
Right.
But My Hero Academia does this too, where all the movies that they've put out have been pretty decent, but none of them matter to the overall story at all.
Fair enough.
Like they make no difference whatsoever. So, but they are cool movies. And I do feel like more fulfilled for having seen them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I am getting a fuller picture, but they always do the, sometimes movies based on animes also do this thing where they, like, dig too hard into the certain characters, like one-note jokes. Like, the angry character is, like, suddenly extra angry because it makes the audience laugh. Yeah.
Angie?
Might as well. They act like fucking babies. Me angry! But you know what I mean? Like, they just go overboard on the characters' particular tropes in the movies for some reason. It's like, hey, remember the thing that this character does like once an episode that makes you laugh? We're gonna make them do it 17 times in the movie.
See, yeah. I just had another thought.
It does count though, because it shows movies that are all. It's canonical. If it's canonical, it counts. So
okay.
Yeah. And I know the Pokemon movies are canonical to the show because some of the shit does carry over to the show.
Yeah.
And the stuff, and at those when those movies happen, wherever they are at that point in the show is the lineup of Pokemon they have in the coming movie.
Yeah.
So there is some carryover. There is some crossover.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? South Park. Because they not only have the bigger, longer, and uncut movie to go along with their long-ass show, but they also have those standalone two-parter movies on Paramount Plus.
I was just gonna say, South Park is another really good one.
The COVID specials and
yes,
the one about the water. The Streaming Wars.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep, so that's another one, because that shit's all canonical, because at least now it is, because they started doing continuity back in season 18, and they just carried stuff over, like gluten-free beer, and,
right.
and Randy being Lord.
Bro, I will say, like, the two-parter episode where they have, where Jeff Bezos is basically an alien, and they have an Amazon built in South Park, Like, bro, I shit you not. They got everything down to a T, down to the color of the fucking turnstiles in that show, in
Yeah,
that
that was
episode.
good. That was
That
good.
was like they must have had Jeff Bezos himself give them a tour of one of their facilities, or they had some or
Someone on the inside.
yeah, someone on the inside that was feeding information to them,
Something like that.
or taking pictures and shit.
Yeah, somehow they saw the inside. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's a good example if you consider all the entries canonical. So, and I mean, I guess they technically are. You know, they fill up certain
yeah,
gaps between seasons and stuff.
they
Um,
do.
Futurama did that too when they got canceled. They tried to finish the show up with like 4 movies back to back, and those 4 movies just make a whole season.
Right.
Then they came back. Another strong example that I can think of, I'm trying to think of things that go really crazy with it. Like movies and shows is more reasonable, but like some of the shit like Assassin's Creed where they want you to like books and stuff too, then that's why
Star
and
Wars.
stage plays, that's wild. Yeah, Star Wars because it's movies, shows, and video games. There are canonical video
books.
games.
And books.
Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor are canonical. And there are canonical books, yes. But
That's where we like
not all of the books are canonical anymore. Some of them have been retconned by the new storylines.
fair enough. Okay. So I do know that there was
And that
a
Christmas
book.
special is definitely not canon.
No, definitely not. I will say that I had someone bring to my attention that when season 1 of The Mandalorian was going on, they already knew what his real name was. They already knew it was Grogu because Grogu was mentioned in one of the books.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor are both canonical. They both take place between 3 and 4, where a lot of this side shit takes place actually, because that's the biggest gap in the franchise.
I'm
Actually,
a
well,
terrible fucking Star Wars fan because I have been slacking on these shows that Disney Plus has been putting out.
Mandalorian, however, takes place between 6 and 7, which is also a big gap, a big time gap. The trilogies, the gaps between the 3 trilogies in the franchise is where most of the shows and side movies take place. So Rogue One is a prequel leading directly up to the events of Star Wars 4: A New Hope.
Yeah.
Solo takes place like around the same time as Jedi Fallen Order, actually, between 3 and 4.
Okay.
Back in that timeline. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. There's that new Ubisoft one coming out that's kind of like Star Wars meets Assassin's Creed meets Siphon Filter.
Yeah.
That looks really good. I can't tell if that one's going to be like part of the story or not, but it might as well be at this point, you know.
Right.
These are all just adventures happening in different universes. There was a series of like animated shorts that different people did that were kind of like what if scenarios that are not considered canonical. They were just like having fun with the sandbox, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, the show, as far as the shows, not only do you have the live action shows, but there are cartoons too that are also like canon, like the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that one, and I think I remember
The Bad
Ryan
Batch and
Ryan
Rebels.
and Spencer. Right, yeah, I was gonna say Ryan and Spencer were talking about Rebels tying into Ahsoka.
Yes, yep. There's that too, which so makes me think that I need to watch Rebels before watching Ahsoka.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I've been. That's the only reason I haven't yet, but I'm thinking about it. I do want to watch Ahsoka though. It's like the whole reason I renewed my Disney Plus.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
And
so Star Wars.
Disney Plus is like, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. Netflix had to build their empire. Disney already had that empire. So I don't know why they're getting all greedy with like the password sharing shit that's going to be going on here soon.
Oh yeah, they're doing a Netflix. But since we're on the subject of Disney, why don't we talk about Disney movies that got spread across multiple pieces of media or had a lot
Yeah.
of like spin-off things that like I mean obviously Star Wars, so the MCU counts too because it's got, the MCU has movies, TV shows and comic books that are all part of the story.
Yes.
There are comic books that fill in gaps between the movies. There are like
Really?
legit licensed prequel comics to some of the movies. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, so there's your full story. That's a prime example of what I'm talking about. Movie shows and comic books. And
Yes.
this is probably, besides Assassin's Creed, one of the longest running examples of this.
Yeah,
Thing.
I'd have
Having
to say,
started back, I would say actually it has 1 year up on AC because this started in 2008 with Iron Man, and Assassin's Creed's first entry I think was in 2009.
I'll tell you one thing
I
that's
could
been
be
running
wrong though.
longer. I'll tell
What?
you something that's been running longer that's technically still Disney related. Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts actually came out. Yeah, you're right. It came out in 2001, 2002, the first one.
Yes.
This one is cheating a little, if I'm being honest, because there is not much in this franchise that is canonical to it besides the games. But within the games, there is a huge spread around among multiple different platforms, even from different companies, like basically
Okay.
PlayStation and Nintendo.
Yeah.
But that being said, though, in all fairness, you can, if you have a PS4 or 5, play almost every single game in the franchise on one platform now.
Yeah.
And the ones that were on Nintendo handhelds have been turned into movies for your convenience. So,
Nice.
on these HD collections. So, as much as I love talking about this franchise, I don't know if I can really count this one because, yeah, it has games and movies, but they're all on the same disc. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
They do have a mobile game, but it's still a video game, technically.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
true.
So basically, the entire franchise is video game. They do have a manga, but it's an adaptation. It's the same story as the games.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, so far they haven't done anything extra that is like that you have to, that isn't a game that you have to pay attention to for the story.
I
You
mean,
know?
I did hear a rumor that at some point they want to do a Kingdom Hearts based series on Disney Plus.
They were thinking about it for a while. There was like a scrapped pilot that was leaked on YouTube for a while.
Really?
But it was going to be an adaptation. It was going to be the same story as the first game.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But staying in the Disney realm, because I do have another really good example that falls in the Square Enix JRPGs area, but I'm going to hold off on that until we get off the Disney train. And let's talk about Disney movies that got animated series that we consider to be canon. So, like, for example, Hercules had an animated series about when he was a teenager, and I think if you look at that as taking place during the montage when he was growing up during the movie, then that's
Then
canon.
that is canon. Yeah.
It's not necessarily mandatory viewing to appreciate the story of the movie, but I do think
Right.
it gives you, if you like the movie, it gives you more. You
Yes.
know? And
I will say
it's just fun to talk about these. I mean, Winnie the Pooh probably got an ass load of he had like fucking 17 movies and a TV show.
Yeah. Lilo and Stitch was another one. They have a TV
Yes.
show, and oh my god, I love Lilo and Stitch.
I
Lilo and
loved
Stitch.
that show because it was like Pokemon kinda, it was like
It was.
and it had like the Monster of the Week formula where every episode they were dealing with a different experiment.
Yeah.
And that's what I
And
loved about it.
It was canonical because they did have movies that that did actually like tie in with The
with
show.
Remind me, did it take place between the first and second movie or after the events of the second one? Where did the sandwich guy come in?
Sandwich guy. He came in. Ooh, I'm gonna have to look this up real quick. Hold on one second.
Experiment 625.
Yeah,
Because Sparky, there was the one about Sparky, right?
yeah, Sparky was.
Because they even reference him in
Stitch. That was
Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, because he's actually a boss battle in the Lilo and Stitch world in that one.
I think the one about Sparky was Lilo and Stitch 2. Stitch has a glitch.
Okay, so that's where we got introduced to the experiments, and then the series was based off that.
Yes.
That's what I remember. Okay.
So hold on. No, that's the exact opposite.
It's a
The
prequel?
Lilo and Stitch the series came out in 2003. Lilo and Stitch 2 came out in 2005.
Okay, so
Stitch
the
has a
movie
glitch.
the movie probably takes place at some point during the series then, or
And then
depending on how long the
Stitch-
series ran for.
Okay, no, the movie Stitch the movie. Stitch the movie is where we got introduced to Sparky.
Okay. Was that a prequel?
Stitch the movie came before Lilo and Stitch the series. So the series is based on Stitch the movie.
Okay, I think I remember that now.
Let me so Stitch the movie came out in August 25th, 2003. And then we got Leroy and Stitch. Stitch the series.
Right. Okay. Damn.
Stitch the series came out September 20th of 2003. So yeah, Stitch the movie came first. So the series is based on Stitch the movie.
Okay. What
And
are some
then-
others? What are some others that got a TV show? The Little Mermaid had an animated series. Aladdin.
They did.
Aladdin had one.
They did.
I want to say
shit.
the events of the Aladdin animated series take place after the second movie.
I wouldn't say it's canonical, but the Mighty Ducks had a animated series.
Oh yeah, definitely not canonical if it's because the shows were live action.
Yeah, that's true.
Based on a real team. The Mighty Ducks animated series, they were actually ducks. Like,
But if you do want to get technical, we had the Mighty Ducks movies, and then we had this series that Disney Plus had done called Mighty Ducks.
okay, there you go. That counts.
Mighty Ducks. The Mighty Ducks Game Changers, and I was actually excited to see this because Emilio Estevez came back to reprise his role as Coach Bombay from the original movies. So the show, after failing to make the cut to join now powerhouse Mighty Ducks junior hockey team, 12-year-old Evan's mother encourages him to form a new team of underdogs with help from Gordon Bombay, the Ducks' original coach.
Damn. Okay.
Yes.
Speaking of old movies that got TV shows based around them, I think Cobra Kai from
The Karate Kid. Yeah.
Kid. Yep. Karate Kid, Cobra Kai are part of
Still
the same
kind of like
universe, so-
remaining in the Disney realm, though. Another live action show, a show that I don't know if it's canon or not because I didn't really watch the show. I watched maybe 1 or 2 episodes. Turner and Hooch.
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know about that one.
I don't
know
know
about
if it's
that one so
I don't know
much.
if it's canon or not. But yeah, no, Cobra Kai, yeah, that's a good one. I have a Cobra Kai t-shirt. I
Now-
absolutely love Cobra Kai. I love
Do
the
you
Karate
remember
Kid.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
Love the Karate Kid. And I've heard that they're going to be doing at some point, I don't know when, but I heard this a while ago. They're going to be doing a sequel to Jackie Chan's Karate Kid movie. And I think Jaden Smith is coming back for this one. He might be. I'm not sure. I cannot remember if that's what I read or not. But I do know that they are hoping to do a sequel to it.
Okay. Do you remember the animated Timon and Pumbaa series?
Yes, I do. I love that show so much.
Would you consider that canonical, and if so, where would you squeeze it in?
No, I don't think that would be considered canonical.
Could it not take place in the time that Simba was growing up with them in the jungle?
I don't know if I can't remember if he was in any of the episodes or not.
I think he was. It was mostly just focused on Timon and Pumbaa, though, but Simba did show up every once in a blue moon. Maybe it takes place after the fact. Maybe it takes place after the first movie.
Yeah.
Because Lion King 1.5 was canonical.
It was.
So maybe I'm gonna put a hard maybe on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, there was a lot of I don't know. I think Aladdin could be a hard maybe too. But in the show, remember that Iago and Genie are part of the team, so it could very well take place after the second movie.
Yeah,
because I think that's when Iago officially joined the team as a good guy. Was after the events of the second one.
Yeah,
because he's there in full force for Aladdin and the King of Thieves. So
rest in peace, Gilbert Gottfried.
Yes, exactly. So I could say safely, I think you could safely snug Aladdin's animated series in between the second and third movie.
Yeah.
Is where I would put it. I don't know about the Little Mermaid's animated series. I would say maybe a prequel to the movie, because it seems to be when she's more doing sea life stuff.
Yeah.
And all of her sisters are there and shit. Most of her adventures in that show took place under the sea, so now, maybe beforehand.
There's an animated Star Wars series that I don't know if it would be considered canonical. I'm backtracking to Star Wars for a second. I don't know if it would be considered canonical, but it came out in the 80s.
Oh.
It was the Ewoks cartoon.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I want to say no. I want to hope maybe not, to be honest.
Right. I mean, I still watch it from time to time. It's on Disney Plus.
Is it?
Yeah. You have to dig for it, but it's on there.
Questionable then. A hard maybe on that one too. So, I'll tell you what is a prime example of another good prime example of this. There are actually everyone knows in the Final Fantasy series, most of the games are all standalone entries. Every numbered entry is a new standalone entry. You don't have to play any of the other ones before it to understand it, any of that. They all can exist in a connected multiverse, but they're not really connected to each other in any way besides chocobos and shit.
Right.
So, but some of the games did have direct prequels and sequels, and they spread their story among different pieces of media. And the three prime examples of this are 7, 10, and 13. Actually, okay. 15 as well. 15, I will just say really quickly, has a movie that takes place before the game called Kingsglaive. But if you got the special edition like I did, then it came with the movie anyways.
Okay.
Which was pretty cool. But, it had the movie that came called Kingsglaive. But 7 is the biggest culprit of this, because Final Fantasy VII originally PS1 game. Yeah. And then it had a direct sequel in the form of a movie called Advent Children.
Okay.
And that was an animated movie. And there was a prequel on the PSP called Crisis Core. And then there was another sequel on the PS2 called Dirge of Cerberus. And then, on top of all that, in order to fill in the gaps between 7 and the movie, there was a novel release called On the Way to a Prayer or something like that.
Okay.
That tells you the story of what everyone was up to after the events of the game. And now we have the remake trilogy, which serves as a sort of requel that that is not only a retelling of the original story, but it's also a sequel that takes place in an alternate timeline.
Right.
So it's got a lot going for it. And then Final Fantasy XIII did it as well by having 3 games in its trilogy, 1, 2, and Lightning Returns. But then, after the end of Lightning Returns, if you want to know what happened to everyone, you got to read a book. There's a book. There's a novel that tells you the story of what happened to everyone after they moved to the New World in the end of that trilogy. And then Final Fantasy X has some crazy shit where they have the first game that ends perfectly, but then they have the second game, which, if you get the quote-unquote good ending, retcons the ending of the first one, which then leads into a book that does something unspeakable to one of the protagonists, which then leads into a fucking audio drama of all things that you can listen to on the HD collection of these games. But it's called Last Will, and it is just like a 30-minute audio drama that you listen to, and it ends on such a somber cliffhanger that it's almost irritating. But if you want the full story of that franchise, you gotta listen to it.
Yeah.
It is canonical, unfortunately, but if you ask a lot of fans, they'll say it's not, or at least they choose to believe it's not because they can't even believe it exists in the first place. But, unfortunately, your headcanon can't change reality. So, it exists and it's canon, unfortunately, but it is what it is. But those are a few examples in the Final Fantasy universe of games that have movies and or books that go along with them for the full story. Dragon Age, I recently learned, is another one. The Dragon Age franchise, which is 3 games, 1, 2, and Inquisition. Or Origins 2 and Inquisition. But there are books that kind of tell the story of some of the background, like some of the other characters in those. Like the main villain of the first game, there's a book about him. That kind of like tells his backstory. So if anybody cares about the deeper lore of that franchise, there are books that they can read that kind of dig into that. I was just thinking Dead Space 2 is another one, because there are animated movies on Netflix that are, one of them is a prequel to the first game, and one of them takes place between the first and second game. So if you want the full story of the Dead Space franchise, you got to play all 3 games and watch the 2 animated movies, and there's a visual novel game that you can play as well. So, let's see. What else are we thinking of? How about Ratchet and Clank?
Ratchet and Clank, yeah, the games and the movie.
Because there is a movie
that is canonical to the games.
Correct. Yes, I would argue that it is as well. If you consider it, it definitely helps. It feels like it's like a requel, like a reboot kind of deal,
Yeah. Franchises originating in comic strips, comic books, and other printed cartoons. One that really stands out to me is the Addams Family.
Oh yeah, because they have. Is Wednesday like canonical to the original movies?
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I know it's a spin-off.
Is each Addams Family story like a new story? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, I would say for a while there, Sonic the Hedgehog counted, because there was an animated series called Sonic Adventure. Not the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, just Sonic Adventure. Was it like...
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
No, wait, not Sonic Adventure. It was something else. It was something, but it wasn't the. So there was like the one with Steve Urkel that was more like cartoony and had like a with the robot chicken chasing after him, and it had like a PSA in every episode, like remember kids, don't talk to strangers, you know. That's not the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the one that was a little more dark and gritty that had like Princess Sally Acorn in it. There was like a rabbit. There was Sonic comic strips that went along with that show. I remember specifically because I used to sit there and look at them in the store as a kid. Yes. Did I mention Resident Evil yet?
No.
So, Resident Evil, to be clear, the live-action movies with Mila Jovovich are not canonical to the games. They take place in a separate universe. However, there are animated movies that are animated like the games that are canonical to the games and take place in the same connected universe. And there is an animated series on Netflix as well that's also part of the story.
Okay.
So yeah, they have that. They have that going for them. Mass Effect, I want to say, has books. Maybe. I think there might be books behind Mass Effect. That kind of give backstory into some characters. I wouldn't be surprised because if Dragon Age has them, and that's a BioWare game, then Mass Effect probably has them too.
You know we can't have this talk without talking about The Last of Us.
Yeah, but I would say so. The Last of Us show is an adaptation to the game, though, not like a necessary entry in it. That one's going to be a good discussion for the adaptations episode for sure. I do think though there might be books
For The Last of Us?
Yes. Yeah. So the Last of Us franchise has... Nope, I was wrong. It is just the Last of Us, the Left Behind DLC, the remastered version, Part 2, the Part 1 remake, and the untitled multiplayer game. Or is it? There was a comic book called The Last of Us American Dreams published by Dark Horse Comics, and it was written by Neil Druckmann.
Okay.
So I think you could consider that canonical.
Franchises originating in toys, attractions, and other media. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Barbie is on this list. Care Bears, Digimon, G.I. Joe. They've got the toys. They've got the movies. They've got the comics. They've got the cartoon.
The list that they have here on Wikipedia is looking more in the terms of like franchises that are spread across multiple pieces of media. There is one more I have that is canonical entries, and then I think possibly two, and then I think it's safe for us to jump into ones that are just spread around in general. You know what I mean? Like, that's what most of this is on this list anyways, is stuff that's spread around in general. But I definitely wanted to give some heavy focus on the ones where, like, you have to partake of everything to get the full story, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a pretty solid example that I'm actually seeing right here and now is Beavis and Butthead, because they actually have two movies, and the original show and the new show, and it's all part of the same story.
Okay.
So that's a good example. But
Now,
I have another really, really, really good one that is about the canonical before I get there. Danganronpa. Because I mentioned it earlier, and I have to mention it again. The reason for this is because the story of Danganronpa, like the full story, is made up of like 3 games and an anime. There's Danganronpa 1, called Trigger Happy Havoc. Then there's Danganronpa Extra Episode Ultra Despair Girls. It's basically 1.5. Takes place between 1 and 2. Then there's Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair. These are all video games so far. But then, after you finish that game, in order to finish the story from there, you have to watch an anime called Danganronpa 3: The End of Hope's Peak Academy. And
Okay.
there are two seasons for that. The Despair arc, which is a prequel to the entire franchise, and then the Future arc, which is the end of the story for the entire franchise. There is one more game called Danganronpa V3, but it takes place in an alternate reality. So
Gotcha.
it's not fully canonical to the rest of the story. So
Okay.
it's so after playing 3 games, 2 of them being visual novels and one of them being a third-person survival horror, in order to get the actual ending of the story, you have to watch an anime. So
I had
that's a really good example because you have to watch that anime if you want to see the end.
right. Okay. So there's actually a couple that I want to talk about real quick that I was actually it's a lot of the references in the first movie is canonical to the ride.
Okay.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Another thing I would consider an adaptation, probably.
Yeah.
The movie is adapted from the ride.
Same with
It's a good one though.
Same with the Haunted Mansion. Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah, the Haunted Mansion
Yes.
was another really good one. There was a lot of canonical stuff in the movie that was canon from the ride.
Do you think Scooby-Doo is a good example of this? Because they had like the animated series, but they also had animated movies to go along with their animated series.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I would say it's canon. I don't know.
Scooby-Doo had a weird continuity.
They sure did.
But there is an order to their shows. There definitely
There
is
is.
an order.
There really is.
What are some other, kind of circling back a little bit, what are some other Disney things that got... Oh, Toy Story has a bunch of shorts. Like, they had, like, their Halloween specials, Christmas specials, all that are kind of, like,
That and you
know,
got
in between stories.
yeah, and you also got Lightyear, which is basically the movie that Andy watched to get excited about his new toy, Buzz Lightyear, that he got in the first movie.
Yeah, kind of an in-universe movie that exists.
Yeah, so I mean,
itself.
I would say that would fall under that, wouldn't you say? Even though they're two separate movies.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that it because it's an in-universe thing. So
Yeah.
that makes sense to me. You're a fan of Wallace and Gromit. Was that a show and movies?
It started as a show, and then they had a Wallace and Gromit movie, and I think if it's not already released, they were going to be doing a Wallace and Gromit 2.
Okay. And they have video games too.
Yes, they do.
I don't know if the video games are canonical, but they have them.
They do have them. I'm not sure if they're canonical either.
Oh, here's a franchise that has canonical video game entries. Back to the Future. So you have the first 3 movies, right? But believe it or not, there's actually a 4th entry to the Back to the Future story. It's a video game made by Telltale Games back in the day when they were more about the point-and-click puzzles instead of the QuickTime events and narrative choices. This is more akin to like one of their Sam and Max games back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a 5-episode episodic Back to the Future game that takes place canonically after the events of the first 3 movies.
Yeah. Oh, another really good example is Rugrats. Rugrats, after they had Dill in the first movie, they brought Dill into the show. And same with when they did Rugrats in Paris, when Chucky's dad meets Kimmy's mom in Rugrats Go to Paris. They contemplate Kimmy's mom and Kimmy in the show as well. And they continue that with the All Growed Up special, and then made the special into a show titled All Grown Up.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that was another really good one.
Oh man, I think Tom and Jerry got like a big movie where like they finally talk in the movie.
Yes.
That was kind of like a big wrap up
Yeah.
type of thing. Oh, believe it or not, Final Destination, because there's 5 movies, yes, but did you know that there are books that take place in that universe as well?
No, I
that follow-
didn't.
Yeah, there are Final Destination books that take place. They're like separate from the movies, but they're in the same universe, and they're about other incidents that happen. And there's actually references to them hidden in the movies. Like one of them is about a premonition about a bunch of deaths at a nightclub, and then in one of the later movies, you see in a newspaper article, if you like freeze frame and look close enough, you'll see that one of the articles is about the deaths in that nightclub that happened in one of the books. It's in universe.
There was a book that I was reading when I was a kid. I never finished it because I ended up losing it somewhere. But I had every intentions on finishing it. I can't for the life of me remember what the book was called. But I do know that it happened in the same universe as The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
And the premise was the story took place on an airplane. This kid was seeing dead people, just like Haley Joel Osment was in the Sixth Sense movie. But he was seeing dead people on an airplane.
Okay.
But it happened in the same universe.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
If
I'll have
I
to
could-
look into that because I didn't know about that one.
If I could get my hands on a copy of that book again, I would read the shit out of that.
I've got another surprise one for you though.
Oh,
Saw, because Saw has
video games that you consider
are-
canonical.
2 video games, Saw and Saw 2 Flesh and Blood, that take place between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. That
Okay.
I consider them canonical because the first one explains what happened to Detective Tapp after the first movie.
That makes sense, yeah.
Danny Glover's character, which they leave you to believe that he bled to death after being shot, but nope, there he goes through another series of things.
Shit.
But yeah, the officially licensed games, they're not necessarily necessary to appreciate the full narrative, but they do lead to some of the cooler traps in the series, if I'm being honest. One of them is an Iron Maiden made of saw blades. I mean, you can't tell me that isn't badass.
Yeah, no, that is pretty awesome.
And they also have another version of the pendulum trap, but this one goes vertically instead of horizontally.
Okay.
So it'll slice you from the bottom up or top down.
Let me see if I can find the name of that book. Hold on 1 second.
But a lot of what happened in those games was a lot of rehashing. In the first one, you got to get out of a bear trap, and in the second one, you got to get out of the Venus flytrap mask in the beginning.
Yeah.
They were Konami games too, so they played like early Silent Hill, in a way, with the how the combat and the atmosphere and how the characters moved and stuff.
I found it.
All right, what was it called? The book you mentioned.
The Sixth Sense: Secrets from Beyond Survivor.
Okay. So a book canonical to the
It's a
Sixth Sense
it's a
movie.
series. It's a 3-book series.
Oh, okay.
It's The Sixth Sense: Secrets from Beyond Survivor. The Sixth Sense: Secrets from Beyond Runaway. And Sixth Sense: Secrets from Beyond Hangman. And
Okay.
these all... It's okay, so it says by David Benjamin and David Levithan. Includes books Survivor, Runaway, and Hangman. See the complete Sixth Sense Secrets from Beyond books series of book list in order. Okay, so the comparison titles. Okay. So if I could get my hands on this book series at some point, I would read the shit out of this. Because I
I
absolutely loved that book.
So I just thought of another game series that has books that are canonical to it.
Do you?
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Do they now?
Yep, Five Nights at Freddy's have books that expand the lore.
Okay.
By a pretty large margin. Halo is actually another one. Halo not only has animated movie, I think an animated movie that goes along with it. I could be wrong about that.
They also have.
It's either an oh yeah, the show on Paramount Plus is an adaptation,
Okay.
I think, or it's either an adaptation or it's a prequel story. I'm not entirely sure. I think it might be an adaptation, though. I'd have to fact check that, but I do know that there was an animated either show or like short series that went along with the story of
Okay.
Master Chief. But I do know for a fact that there are books, because our friend PJ is a huge fan of that franchise, and he's read all the books, so he knows like all the backstory about the Spartans and like the Halo
Yeah.
Project and all that stuff. So those a lot of game series, long running game series that have books released for them like this that have they basically serve as like lore expansions. I wouldn't say they're necessary to fully appreciate the stories of the games themselves, but they do help expand your knowledge of the overall universe for sure, and kind of give you maybe a better appreciation for the games as a result.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw you I'm gonna throw you for a loop with this next one.
Okay.
But this one, it started as a show, and then they have 4 movies.
Okay.
I can't be on this topic without talking about Jackass.
Oh, you know what? You're right. They did do that. They did. They started a show and had 4 movies, didn't they? And
Yes, they did, and the movies were fucking hilarious.
It can't not be canonical because it's all like real shit. You know what I mean? It's all like actually happened. Yeah. So it's canonical to real life. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's a prime example.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a really good example. Darksiders is another game series, I would say, because they have games and books as well.
I was gonna say, there was a Jackass video game for the PSP too.
Oh, okay. Probably like an adaptation type deal, though, like based on the show.
It was, yeah, based on it came out, I think, after the first movie did.
Okay. Oh,
But none of the stunts that were done in the game, I think, were ever on the show.
I can't believe I completely blanked on this too, but I mentioned Dragon Age earlier has books. They also have an anime series on Netflix, and there was a live action web series that was considered canonical that featured Felicia Day, because the character that she plays in that, she comes back to play again in a DLC for the second game. So
she's not related to Charlie Day, is she?
No, I don't think so. Sometimes people have same last name but no have same blood.
Fair enough. Yes.
But no, I had a thought with that too. Oh yeah, animated series. So Cyberpunk has an animated series on Netflix that I think takes place in the same universe.
Yes, they do.
Like
I watched
Edge
a few
Runner
episodes
or something
of
like that.
Yeah, Edge Runner. Yeah, Cyberpunk Edge Runner.
There's also League of Legends has expanded the story of its playable hero characters into an assload of different things, one of them being a show on Netflix as well. Arcane, it was called, I believe.
Digimon had multiple different shows, and they had a few movies.
Yeah, Yeah, that's that anime thing too, where like every new season of the show, they just treat like a new show in general. Instead of being a
Yeah.
new season of the same show, it's just a new show. Instead of Pokemon season 32, it's like Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon Championship 49 edition XL 700 season 2.
In a nutshell, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just how it goes. I do love though how My Hero Academia is one of the animes that does this, where whenever there's a new story arc going on, they change the animation of the opening and closing credits. So it's still the same show. It's still like season 5 or whatever into the same show, but since every maybe like half a season, they'll change the opening and closing credits to match what's currently going on in the story.
That makes sense.
And I like that.
Another show that another series that would be that has it has lore, it's got books, it's got a show, it's got spin-off shows. Game of Thrones.
The show is based off the books, and there are more shows, but it's shows and shows, you know? The show is an adaptation of the books up until they got to the point where they caught up to the books and then had to make it up as they went along. But
yeah, pretty much. And then there's the games. I don't know if the games are canonical.
Okay, so I would argue that the Telltale game for Game of Thrones is canonical to the books. Specifically. Canonical to events of the books, because the show is based on the books, but it doesn't exactly follow them to a T. There is the events of the Telltale Game of Thrones game follows a story of a house you didn't know about, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, and you get to play as those poor souls as they go through their torment. But you do get like a backseat, a backseat perspective of the events of the Red and Purple weddings. In that game as well. So yes, canonical, I would say, because Tyrion Lannister's in it, Joffrey's in it, So yeah, so they're in it. However, the one RPG Game of Thrones game that they made, I wouldn't consider that one. That one was just like a weird spin-off. But the Telltale game, I would consider it a part of the thing. I would consider Telltale games in general, for the most part, I would consider their entries to be canonical to the stories they're based around. Except, so in the case of the Guardians of the Galaxy one, I would say it's canonical to their comic books, but not to the movies.
Okay.
Not to the movies.
Oh, makes sense.
Just like the new Guardians of the Galaxy video game that came out recently is its own standalone thing. It's not related to anything else, not even the Avengers game that came out a year before it.
Right.
It's its own thing. But they do borrow some stuff from the movies, but overall it's its own standalone thing. Yeah. And Telltale had 2 Batman games that could be considered their own self-contained narrative. But, so I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because that made me think of The Walking Dead, because not only does The Walking Dead have several shows, and the finale of the main show basically ended spinning off into several sub-shows, but there is, so The Walking Dead show we all know is based off the graphic novels of the same name. So the Telltale Walking Dead game, of which there's 4 or 5 seasons, is canonical to the graphic novels. So when you meet characters in that game like Glenn and Herschel and all them, they are the graphic novel versions of those characters, not the show versions. But it is canonical, I think, to that. So yeah, that was a good one to bring up. Well, I do think we should probably wrap it up here soon, but do you have any more that you want to squeeze in there real quick on a rapid fire that you can think of?
Not that I can think of.
No?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I suppose that will be it for this one. In the next episode, folks, we're going to talk about some of our favorite crossover franchises. Yes, we've already decided on that one ahead of time. So we'll be talking about that time that Family Guy crossed over with The Simpsons, all of the major Arrowverse crossovers. We'll be talking about things like Smash Bros. And PlayStation All-Stars, Kingdom Hearts, anything, the Final Fantasy Dissidia games, anything where characters from some of our favorite things come together and meet each other. Remember that time Brooklyn Nine-Nine crossed over with New Girl? We'll talk about that too. Matter of fact, a popular meme came out of that. So that'll be the topic of the next episode ahead of time. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know in the comments down below not only what some of your favorite multimedia franchises are, but let me also know what some of your favorite crossovers in history are. Like, what are your favorite... the MCU is one big giant crossover,
Yeah.
So let me know what some of your favorite crossovers in media history are, and I will read those comments in the next episode. If you can't... if you're not watching on YouTube, you can email me at MrOversoul53@gmail.com. That's MrOversoul53 at gmail.com, or shoot me a post at the website formerly known as Twitter at Oversoul53, Oversoul53. And where can they find you?
They can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at The Vaping Fiend. They can find me on TikTok at the.vaping.fiend and on Twitch at The Vaping Fiend.
Alright, so that's it for this time. Remember to leave a like on YouTube, a follow on Spotify, a rating on Apple, and all that fun stuff. And until next time, we'll catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.